Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Tank Talk Podcast, your favorite podcast on the face of the earth. And today, we've got an interesting one for you, and I'm curious to hear how the rest of you watching this, what you think. And we're going to want your opinions down in the comments section below on this one. What are we talking about today?
Well, we're gonna do our best to get rid of probably 3/4 of our audience here. But let me say, this was your idea, but no, I do think it's a good idea because it is something that's out there. It's very prevalent, and it needs to be talked about. And that is why social media, fish keeping groups, and social media in general can be so toxic, particularly when it comes to fish keeping groups or fish keeping in general. So yes, that shouldn't have been that difficult, but this is the kind of topic that is, it's a tough one. So sorry, I stumbled there a little.
And understand, like usual, we don't necessarily have a plan here. We're just gonna talk. We're gonna talk. And again, it's important to hear from you because I hear it all the time. I'm sure you hear it a lot. And that is, oh, I went on Facebook and I tried to get some help and everybody just yelled at me. And so now they're showing up in the comments section of one of your videos. They're trying to find help and they've already basically just been absolutely annihilated all over the social media for some simple question. And it's kind of sad, right? I don't know how long you've been on Facebook. I actually haven't been on Facebook that long. In essence, I guess I'm kind of like a Facebook newbie. So I think I might have started maybe 2018 or 2019.
Wow.
Is when I first got on Facebook, and I had avoided it for as long as I could. But then with Facebook Messenger and all of the stuff that comes with that and having a YouTube channel, it just made sense. Okay, I need to have a presence on there. I need a way to be able to communicate with people without having to try to communicate with them via Instagram or handing out my phone number all the time. And that worked out really, that has worked out really well. So before we get into why it can be a problem on all these different social medias, what do you see as the advantages, right? What's the advantages of these social media platforms from a fish keeping perspective?
Well, I mean, I think it has to be said before we say anything at all. I consider myself, and I know you do too, extraordinarily lucky to make a living on social media. It is, you don't make a living on it, but you know what I mean. You have a big boy job, but this is my livelihood, and I consider myself very lucky to be able to do that. There's going to be a lot of discussion that's going to probably make it sound like I'm unhappy with social media or again, I have to reiterate, not my idea to talk about this, but I want to be very clear. I am the luckiest guy on the planet to be able to do what I do for a living. And I love my job. I think it's an amazing thing, but it's not without its challenges and it's not without its flaws. And Facebook is one of those big, giant, massive, enormous flaws. But I did what I always do, and I veered off from what your original question was. What was the original question again? What are the benefits of social media?
Oh man, you almost got me. I'm like, what was my original question? That would have been a first. I asked you a question. You didn't answer it. You asked me to clarify, and I don't remember what I asked.
And they say men don't listen.
That's why you tune into the Tank Talk podcast to get conversations like this. Okay, so I believe my question was, what's the benefits of these social media platforms?
An access to community and inspiration. Those would be my top things.
Okay.
Because you might be somebody like me that, what is it, introvert or extrovert? I don't know. I don't leave my house very much. I like to be here. That would be
an introvert.
Okay, well, that's what I am. And sometimes I hate that. You could call me that. A recluse. That I mean, you could call me that too. I prefer to be at home. Lisa and I are here. We had the kids. We didn't get rid of them. They all grew up and moved out. And even then, it was like I would prefer to be home over anything else. And so my access to any kind of community was non-existent. I mean, so being able to go on social media and have access to that was a really big thing. Too much of it is a problem. And I don't mean volume. I mean, well, we'll get into it, but um, having access to community and again, inspiration, I think are the two biggest things. I don't even know if social media, this is going to sound weird. I don't know if it's the right place to get all the information that you need. And I make a living delivering information on social media. So I don't even know what I meant by that, but I think we'll probably elaborate on it as we go.
Yeah, because there are ways to do it and ways not to do it. And so I'm really curious to hear what you think about this. I'm really curious to hear what our viewers, listeners think about this as well. I actually rank social media in terms of its value, like the different platforms. I'm going to throw something out there, not trying to be offensive or in any way, shape, or form. So if you've got a favorite social media and I bash it, you're just going to have to deal with it. So, okay, you ready? I think, should we do this in a positive way or a not positive way? What's the most useful and the least useful, or the most worthless? And
Let's start with the most worthless and work our way up to good.
I think, personally, you could get rid of TikTok completely and the world would not miss it. In fact, the world would actually improve.
I agree.
Now, it's easy to beat up on TikTok. It's kids, you're just scrolling. There's nothing there of any value. And I pretty much agree with all of that. So I'm on TikTok, believe it or not. I've been on there now for a couple of years. And I say this as someone where when I'm looking at short form content, TikTok is growing faster for me than any of the other social media platforms. But I still recognize it as, I don't actually use TikTok. I post on there, but it feeds me like this garbage, right? So on the home screen, it doesn't know what I want. And so I think it's feeding me all the same garbage it would feed like any teenage kid. I'm like, this is garbage. So I post, I don't use TikTok at all. I think it could fall off the face of the earth and the world would literally be a better place, because I think it just makes people believe that reality is a certain way and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's the low hanging fruit, right? You're not going to get a bunch of people like, oh man, no, TikTok is the best. Maybe we do. But the next most useless one is Instagram. I actually think Instagram is every bit as useless as TikTok, because with Instagram, you could share short form videos, you can share pictures. There's almost no social behind that social media, right? When we're talking about the exchange of ideas and building community and doing all of these things and being able to communicate with one another, Instagram is basically pointless for that. Nobody ever reads comments. You know, if you're watching things on TikTok and you leave a comment, nobody reads them. Nobody even expects to have their comments read on TikTok. If they reach out via, I keep saying TikTok, Instagram, TikTok's the same way. Nobody expects people to read the messages on Instagram. If you get messaged, it's very normal. You almost expect, okay, I'm going to message somebody on Instagram. You pretty much expect never to receive a response. And I'm guilty of that too. So I'm looking at this social media platform and I'm like, this is, again, it's another one that could fall off the face of the earth. And I don't think it matters. I really don't. Now, in certain niches, it's more important, like in fitness and all that stuff. I think there's probably a bigger audience there, but nothing that couldn't easily be transferred over into the other social medias that have more value. So I'm curious, do you use it? I mean, I know you're on Instagram. With that, where are the advantages?
When we're talking about TikTok and Instagram, and I would also put the side of the YouTube platform that has wasted so much of my time, the shorts part, where you're going to this platform to receive a bunch of brainless entertainment. I'm not saying the people creating the content are brainless. What I mean is you don't have to put forth any thought. It's just stimulation for your brain. Those three are great for it. Now, I don't go on Instagram for that because I'm an old man and I don't even really know how to post on Instagram. If Lisa said to me, hey, can you post this on Instagram? I'd be like, but I don't know how. I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous as somebody that makes a living on social media, but Instagram and TikTok and YouTube Shorts are just not my thing. But I can spend a lot of time on them just occupying my brain with a bunch of nonsense. And for that, I think that they're great. But I also agree with you. They serve really no purpose. If they went away, I would not be devastated. Uh, all three of those. I mean, it just, as a matter of fact, I would probably celebrate if they went away, because then people would be forced to watch long form content, which would work out better for me. But no, I don't see them. I see oh man, this is tough because I look at them differently. I don't even know how I look at TikTok, if I'm being honest with you. I've never been on TikTok and not been incredibly frustrated with what I see, because if I go on TikTok, I'm looking for fish stuff, and it only takes about 5 seconds to be like, I can't believe this is on the internet. Like, why is this here? This is ridiculous. Instagram doesn't really do that to me, and YouTube Shorts don't do that to me. I don't even know what I'm saying right now, but that kind of mindless, just brain numbing scrolling, sometimes it's entertaining and it's fun and it fills a little gap of time, but it can also become a problem where it's filling too much of time. I've certainly fallen guilty of that. So I wouldn't, throw any kind of funeral for them if they all three disappeared at all.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that there is almost no community engagement on TikTok or Instagram whatsoever. I mean, as a creator, what creators are doing nowadays is they're throwing the short form on all the social media. I do it. I'm sure you do it. So it's like, if you make a short form content, it's going on YouTube, it's going on Facebook Reels, it's going on Instagram, it's going on TikTok, and it's just one button you press and just boom, it shoots them out to all of them. So whatever you find on TikTok and Instagram, if you like that, you can find it on Facebook and YouTube Shorts as well, and vice versa. So the social media platforms are almost completely interchangeable from that perspective. But again, the big difference is with TikTok and Instagram, there is no social part to the media. It's just people posting stuff. And I think the engagement is poor. And then as a creator, I also see that creators who are on, and let's just say they're on Instagram or primarily TikTok, they're not necessarily, there's no emotional connection to that content whatsoever, right? You're flicking through it. You don't even remember it 5 minutes later. You can sit there for an hour and flick through 1,000 things and maybe remember one or two of those things. And so there's no engagement. There's nothing there emotionally that attracts you to it. And that's why I say, for the most part, it's worthless. I do think whatever advantages there are on those platforms, you can equally have them on the other platforms. So if you're saying, okay, there's some really cool aquascaping pictures or really cool aquascaping short form content on TikTok or on Instagram, it's like, well, I'll bet you 99 times out of 100, that same exact video is also on Facebook. It's also on YouTube. So I don't see, I don't even know why those platforms exist anymore. I can't in my mind justify why they exist.
Well, let's stand on the front porch, and as two old men, you significantly older than me, but as two old men, let's stand on the porch and yell at people as they walk through our yard and say, "Get off my lawn." Let's be the old men in the room. They exist for the younger generation. That's the answer, because that is the bulk of the people that are using that. The short form social media platforms, and YouTube's included in that, their short section. That's what the younger generation wants. They want quick, immediate. Again, they're not receiving any kind of big message. It's just, I want to fill my brain full of a bunch of useless stuff and, not even remember it 2 minutes later, but it occupies my time, and that's good. I think that there's people that are younger than us that need to get off of our lawn. That's how they receive their entertainment.
So you want to hear a really interesting thing. I've been teaching now since 2007. And so I've been following what my students do in terms of, paying attention to what they do in terms of social media. And back when I first started, it was Facebook. So they were on Facebook. It was great for young families. And we'll talk about that more in a second. And then you saw the trend and they got away from Facebook and went to Instagram. They thought Facebook was for old people. So then the young students, they found Instagram, and Facebook was only for Gen Xers and millennials. And so then you had the younger millennials and the Gen Zs on Instagram. And then guess what happened? TikTok came along, and now Instagram fell dramatically out of favor. And so I don't think young people are not necessarily using Instagram. When I look at who's using Instagram, it's still my students I knew from 10 years ago. But the students that are coming up now, those really, really young Gen Zers are now Gen Alpha. Guess what? It's TikTok and it's Snapchat. And now those kind of flip back and forth. I can't keep track of which one's more popular anymore, but it's interesting. But then what happens is, as I watch these students grow up, right? They go from the crazy teenager, 18 years old, into their early 20s. All of a sudden, you start seeing them pop up on these other social medias, on Instagram. Then eventually, once they have families and stuff, it's all Facebook. Because, as I wanted to address next, the advantage to Facebook is you're getting all the short form that's on Instagram, because it's a shared company now at this point. So Instagram and Facebook, they share their content. Even if the creator is not posting on one or the other, you have the option to share on the other platform. And so as long as you have an account there, it does it automatically for you. So you're still getting the short form there. I think it's clunky, right? Facebook short form is clunkier to use than Instagram and certainly TikTok. But this is where I think, and this is probably where I'm going to have a very unpopular opinion. Everybody likes to bash Facebook, but I still think of the three that we've talked about so far, in terms of social part of social media, it is by far the most valuable, actually even more than YouTube, right? The social part of social media, where you can interact with a group, is by far the most predominant and most useful and the easiest to interact with on Facebook. And so all these Facebook groups, which we'll get into the bad in a minute. We're not saying that there's no bad stuff, but when you want to post pictures, when you want to post questions, and you want to go to forums, there is nothing in social media quite like Facebook.
Oh, I don't disagree at all. I always, being a creator on YouTube and having been for a long time, the comments are constant. And a lot of times I try to stay away from them because I just get upset, and that's a big problem. But the reason why I bring that up, I know we're not talking about YouTube yet, is because so many times I see comments on my YouTube videos and I think to myself, why are they asking that here? Mm-hmm. I'll do a video about the new decorations in my 360 gallon, and then somebody will comment on that video, how many Congo Tetras can I put in a 29 gallon tank? And it's like, not only is this not the place for that, you're not breaking any rules, but this is not the place for that. It's not even the right kind of video for that. Why wouldn't you ask that on a video that's about Congo Tetras? That's a question that's probably more suited for a more specific type of group on Facebook or something like that. So I agree with you as far as the exchange of information that's not from the creator, the OP, but it's from just a community back and forth. Facebook by far is the best for that. I dislike Facebook immensely, but I completely agree with you there. We're in the process of planning an 80-year-old birthday party, 80th birthday party for my mother coming up in September. Everybody's doing it through Facebook, which is why Lisa has to update me on everything, because I don't go in there and see it. But that's how my family is communicating about this thing. You're not going to do that in the comment section of a YouTube video or Instagram. No. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Facebook is definitely good for that.
Well, and not only that, you've got Facebook Messenger, so you can set up groups there. And it has actually been vital. That is the one thing where once I started on Facebook, and I had the same bad opinion as everybody else does. Oh, Facebook, you got all these people, I deleted Facebook. And I get it, trust me. If I wasn't doing social media, I'd still have to keep it, because there's just so many things. My motorcycle riding groups, they communicate via Messenger, they communicate via the Facebook page, like everything. So many of the swaps and all this fish related stuff. This is the way that they don't communicate it via Instagram. Half of them don't even have Instagram accounts, these groups. They don't even bother because there's no point. They're not on TikTok because, again, there's no point, but they are on Facebook, and they are communicating some pretty important stuff. If you want to be part of that group, that's where you go. I pay attention to a lot of sports. I love baseball, so I pay attention to a lot of sports stuff, Cubs, the White Sox, and, just the speculation, the trades, got the trade deadline coming up. That, to me, I like that kind of thing. And there are some people putting some kind of really cool posts on Facebook where it gets you thinking, and you can have the conversation. And guess what? And here's what I like. You have that conversation, your name is attached to that post. It's not, A6435128 on YouTube who's shouting off all this garbage and spewing all this, horrible stuff, hiding behind a keyboard. It's like, you can say all the things you want on Facebook, but your profile's there. And yeah, I suppose you could fake a profile, but it's there. It's linked to you somehow personally. So there is some accountability there in terms of the things that you say. And yeah, it still doesn't stop people from saying dumb stuff, as we're going to talk about in a few minutes, but it's all there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but some of it is just too much. And that's why I have the opinion that I do about Facebook. I go through spells where sometimes I'm just the most anti-Facebook person in the world, just because, I'm one of those guys. If Elon Musk came here and decided he was going to give me half of his fortune, one of the first things I would do is eliminate all social media from my life, with the exception of YouTube. You would not find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, none of those. I would be that guy that if there was a group that was assembling, and like my family, I'd be the guy in the group that they'd be saying, oh yeah, you got to text him because he's not on any of the social medias. And don't call him because he won't answer the phone, but text him and that'll work. But my hatred for Facebook started, and I'm going to call somebody out here by name who nobody, I could be wrong here, but shouldn't be a name that anybody knows, because it's a friend of mine from high school. And I'm talking, we're going back to like 2008. A friend of mine from high school named Terry Padalino posted what she was having for lunch. And I was like, what? She's my friend. I've known her, graduated with her. She was in my group of friends in high school. There's not many things on this planet that I could care about less than what she is having for lunch. And that is when it started for me. Like, what am I doing? This is dumb. Why am I on here? So I've never understood the appeal of it. I've never understood why people would go there to get information and stuff like that. It's always been something that's very foreign to me. I do understand the community side of it. It's just not for me. I'm not that person. And mainly the reason why is because I would get lost in it and spend way too much time doing it. So I just push it away.
You mentioned that, and I'm as you're saying this, I'm thinking, okay, what of the social media platforms, which platform am I most likely to be like, oh wow, I just lost 30 minutes? I don't know why. It's Facebook. It's Facebook because I am seeing, like, some of my family members I don't get to see as much. They're friends, family, they're spread out all over the place. People I have met on, through doing the YouTube stuff that you meet, as you start making friends that not just nationally, but internationally. And that's what's so cool is now I have a way, we have some people that I know from the Netherlands, and they are making a trip to the United States. They're coming in September. They're going to stop by. I've never met her or her husband in person, but we've been talking back and forth on Messenger for probably 2 years and became like Facebook Messenger friends. And they're like, hey, we're coming to the United States. I'm like, that's awesome. So that would have never happened on Instagram. It would have never happened on TikTok. It would not have happened on YouTube because there's no mechanism there to have conversations, to share pictures like, hey, look at my tanks. And look, we just got a new house or something like that. So not only that, but then you've got the whole Facebook marketplace, right? And so that directly impacts us as fish keepers. How many times have you heard, go to Facebook marketplace, find all those used tanks, the used filters, that's another one where I can just start flicking through. And Facebook Marketplace they read your mind. Like, there's something, Facebook in general, I don't necessarily trust the founder there. And I'm telling you, they must have like a laser beam that goes somewhere into your central cortex. It's like, what are they thinking about? Because you start flicking through and they're like, oh, well, this is like all the stuff and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, right? I'm not one of those people like, oh, well, they're preying on you by advertising and sending you things that you want. Yeah, that's the whole idea. I don't want to see advertisements for kitchen towels. I want to see stuff for motorcycle parts and fish tanks and man, Facebook Marketplace, they know. You click on a few things like, oh, we got you now. You're going to be spending some money. I don't, but they at least show you cool stuff.
The only conflict I have, I've been on Marketplace many times too. I'll give you an example. Lisa and I, we're looking to buy a commercial refrigerator right now for the business, for our tissue culture plants, and go on there because that makes perfect sense. Go on Facebook Marketplace because these refrigerators are ridiculously expensive. So if I can find one that maybe came out of a restaurant or something that somebody's selling. But the conflict that I have is you type into Facebook Marketplace, commercial refrigerator or drink refrigerator, something like that, and you end up with all of the paid advertisements. Like I really liked Craigslist in the beginning because Craigslist became like this too. I don't want to see everybody advertising their brand new commercial refrigerators. I don't want to see the people that are selling them out of their garage that they're buying from China. And you know what I'm saying? Like businesses. I want to see people that just closed down a restaurant or their uncle just closed down a restaurant and they're trying to sell this refrigerator from that. That's what I want to see. And you just end up with so much garbage that gets sent through. That's the real conflict. And don't type in like Kubota tractor. Oh boy. Are you going to see a bunch of stuff on there? It's all tractor stuff, but it's a bunch of stuff that you don't want to see.
Yeah.
But because they're trying to feed you everything, like they're reading your mind. You don't have your tinfoil hat on. All of a sudden you're getting everything.
Yeah.
That's a problem for me.
And what I find interesting too about the three social medias that we've talked about so far, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And I mentioned out of the three, TikTok tends to grow the fastest, which means, again, I'm saying that as a creator because that means you've got people who are feeding into it, right? Instagram by far, it isn't even close. It's dead. That to me is a dead, as a creator in the fish keeping community, it is a dead social media platform. I am convinced that on Instagram, most of the views are not real. As soon as it even just shows you, like, so if you're flicking through on the Instagram reels or whatever, the minute that even shows, it's counting it as a view. Right. You might have viewed it for less than a second. I don't think anything about that is authentic. There's no interaction there whatsoever. Like I said, I could get off Instagram tomorrow and not lose a wink of sleep. But Facebook, believe it or not, is from the shorts perspective, not that far behind TikTok. And now it could be doing the same thing. I don't know how these social medias record the views. My guess is because YouTube updated their shorts counting. I don't know if you're aware of that a couple months ago. YouTube's like, oh, by the way, we're going to start counting a view as long as a person basically was on there for like a second or just a couple seconds. And I think they did that to reflect what other social media platforms are doing, because naturally you sit there and you're like, okay, I post a short on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and I've got 10% of the subs on TikTok compared to YouTube, but I'm getting 5 times as many views. Well, it's because they weren't calculating the same way. So YouTube decided, okay, we're going to play that same game, and then all of a sudden your views go up. But anyway, YouTube, I have always maintained, will continue to maintain, and I don't see it ever changing, at least unless some brand new thing comes out, is by far, and it isn't even close, the most important social media platform on earth. And it has been since its release.
I completely agree. And it is not a bias that's making me agree. It's just common sense. I don't even think there is a single platform out there that is going to ever attempt to create a site to compete. There is one out there, Rumble. Mm-hmm. They're trying to compete. I don't know how successful they are, but it's like the social media world is dominated so heavily by YouTube. I don't even know if it would be worth anybody's time to try to compete with it because they've done so well. And that's not my bias. I mean, it is my preferred social media platform, but I just think they've got it nailed. They've got it wired. They figured it out. And there's the pros far outweigh the cons when it comes to YouTube, as far as I'm concerned. We can get into all of the reasons why that I believe it makes it better than others, but yeah, it's not even up for debate. YouTube is the biggest and the best.
Yeah. And the thing is, and the reason why I say it's not even close is of the social media platforms, YouTube is the only one that has the searchability that it does. It is seamless. And I am not one of those people that want to see YouTube and Google separated. I don't want to see that. I like the fact that when you Google something, it will show you relevant videos from YouTube. Now, we'll get into the negatives in a second. I do understand that there are downsides to that in terms of controlling a message. I get that. Trust me, I do. But I don't want to see those two platforms separate. I do want to see them distribute things fairly, but not, it's so powerful. But not only that, it's the only social media platform that is truly a platform that can be educational. Now, I don't know how many people know this watching the Tank Talk podcast, but John, between you and Lisa, you have how many YouTube channels?
Well, if we include this one, 4.
Yeah. So Tank Talk podcast, KT Tropicals, Roots and Whiskers, and you've got the
Money Pit.
Money Pit channel.
Yep.
Right. We have, between Joanna and I, we have 6, including this one. So Tank Talk, Primetime Aquatics, Motorcycle Channel, Iron Mission, the Biology Channel or STEM Nerds. Joanna's got the Smallscape, and we've got Container Joy. So between the two of us, there are, because we both included Tank Talk podcast, there are 9 channels. And the reason for that is these are all channels that will help you understand concepts that you absolutely, I don't care what anybody says, you are not going on short form in 60 seconds and truly understanding what the heck it is you are seeking, right? If you search for something and you need to learn something, 60 seconds, 9 times out of 10 is not going to do it for you. Now, if you want deeper understanding, YouTube is the only place for that. The searchability, and YouTube's algorithm is also pretty darn strong. I know it's fun to bash the algorithm and all that stuff, but you start searching for a particular subject and YouTube will feed you those things, because what's happened, a little behind the scenes baseball here, is what YouTube used to do is there used to be a box there that creators could put in what their they had a description, so they had a title, they had a description. Then underneath that, there were these keywords that they could put in. Well, YouTube doesn't even use that anymore. And I didn't understand why. I thought that was really useful at first until the STEM Nerds channel, until I went in there and I started editing my subtitles because they have to be perfect for what I'm using them for. And I realized YouTube is reading the entire transcript of your video, and it knows exactly what you are talking about. So it doesn't need that search box anymore, because it's looking at the text, it's looking at the things you said. And it has gotten scary good at even like STEM Nerds channel with some highly, there's some complicated stuff and some words I didn't think YouTube would be able to spell out in a closed caption. It's not perfect, far from it, but I'm like, this thing knows. It's really good. And that's how it's giving you the stuff that it's giving you. And that's how it's timestamping it for you. So you're like, oh, I need to know how to connect this bolt to this part of a motorcycle. Instead of just giving you the whole video, it's saying, oh, here it is. It starts at 5:49 in this video. It's amazing. No other social media platform has come close to doing that. And I just don't see it happening. You mentioned Rumble. Rumble's cool. I've thought about posting stuff on there, but it's clunky. It's still clunky to use. Its search feature is still not the best. And I have a Rumble account and I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, it's not even close yet. It just isn't. Will it get there? I hope so, because I like to see alternatives when it comes to social media platforms, but it's not there yet.
Well, and YouTube has had such a long, in the social media world, they've been around for so long. They've had such a long time to refine their product, not just from an algorithm standpoint, but also from a usability standpoint. It's absolutely flawless. In fact, it's, dare I say, too good. And this is hard for me to even put to words, because I don't want people to think I'm searching weird things, but sometimes I won't even search for things on YouTube because I don't want my feed to be full of that stuff. And it's not weird stuff or, like things that I shouldn't be searching for. I don't mean that. I just mean, like, I don't know, if I'm looking at On Cloud shoes, I just bought some new shoes. If I'm looking at these shoes, I don't really want to search for them on YouTube because I don't want my feed full of a bunch of people doing reviews on shoes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's that good. Like, they can almost process what I'm thinking before I even type it in there. So yeah, sometimes I stay away from things because I just don't want, that's how good it is.
You want to hear a crazy story? Speaking of that, YouTube just being YouTube. I don't know why I did it, but there was a video about this couple who was having a hard time because they bought an RV and it turned out being a total nightmare. And there's a channel. This woman is actually really good. She's a little bit older. She dedicates her entire channel to helping people solve issues that they've had with buying brand new RVs. I got hooked on this. Like YouTube knew, it was like, once you watch one of these, good luck. So now I'm watching all these horror stories. I don't even own an RV. I don't want an RV. It's not even something I'm considering. And yet here I am for the last week watching all these horror stories, which is reconfirmed I will never buy one. But then YouTube starts serving me all the other RV channels. And next thing you know, I'm becoming like an RV expert. Right now, I could tell you the best brands to buy, the things to look out for, the things you need to do. And I'm like, why do I know all this? Yep. It's crazy. But again, I learned a lot, and it probably saved me like $100,000 mistake maybe in 7 or 8 years. I'm like, hey, honey, let's retire and go around the earth on an RV. I'm not doing that, man. I'm going to rent hotels because these things are garbage. But it's the platform where you go. You're not going to Instagram. I work on motorcycles all the time. We got 4 of them in the garage, and it's like, if I need to know how to reconnect, some electrical component, I'm not going to TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook for that. There's only one place we're going, and
that's right.
It's YouTube, because it's a visual thing. We can see somebody doing it. Most people are visual learners, and it's got the market cornered. And I want to say one other thing that I think we need to talk about before we get into the disadvantages, and the reason why YouTube is head and shoulders above the rest. It does something that the other platforms do not do, and you make a living out of it. And I could as well. That's they pay their creators.
Yeah.
And they put forth enough monetization where the people who have the potential, it's not always the people who are doing it, but at least the potential is there for people who are very, very talented, either in videography, they're well-spoken, they're super engaging, or incredibly knowledgeable. It makes it worth their while to post on that platform. And it almost makes it pointless to post on the other platforms.
Tell you an interesting story about that. But before I do, I did the exact same thing you did with the RVs, except it was with yachts. You want to talk about something I will never own?
No.
And it's not because I watch a bunch of nightmare stories. No, I'm watching tours of $40 million yachts. And I there's no way. Even if I was a billionaire, I don't think I would buy one. But for some reason, and I've watched so many of those videos, there's a particular channel called Aquaholic, who is fantastic at just doing a tour of, these big $50 million yachts. I can get lost in that real quick. But I shouldn't have gone off on that side tangent, because now I don't remember where I was going with that.
We were talking about YouTube is able to pay creators, and that's able to attract some really good talent by doing that.
I had a conversation. I was speaking with the late, great Brian Barczyk, just before he passed, or it might've been just before he was diagnosed, actually. And I was so excited to meet him. And we had a long conversation about exactly what we're talking about now. And he was telling me, oh man, you got to start putting your videos on Facebook. You're putting them on YouTube. You're making money from that. Good for you. You do a good job. I know it would do great on Facebook. You could make all this money on Facebook. Ask me how many videos I uploaded to Facebook. The answer is 0, because it's not what I'm used to. I know what I'm doing with YouTube. YouTube's made it so much easier, and I know how to optimize them, and I know how to do all of that. Facebook, it was just so difficult. Like, I couldn't understand. I'm sure it's one of those things that would be real easy once you get the hang of it, but I couldn't figure it out. And it shows you how money hungry I am. I mean, Brian Barczyk, one of the goats, is telling me, oh, you could make a killing on Facebook. And I was just like, forget it. It's too much for me. I got my hands full enough with YouTube. I don't even want to mess around with Facebook. And so apparently there's money to be made there too, but YouTube just makes it so much easier. And that's where the bulk of the people are anyway, looking for that kind of content. So,
it's funny you mentioned Brian Barczyk, because that was another one. I'll never forget it. It was around Christmas time. We were at my sister-in-law's place when she lived in Wisconsin, and it was me and my boys. And somehow, you're just kind of sitting around. We were there for like almost a week. We get hooked on Brian Barczyk. We didn't have any lizards at the time. It was just fish. Hadn't had lizards since I was, I don't know, a teenager. And we binge watched his channel pretty much for like 5 days straight. Next thing you know, I got a corn snake. I had like 3 different lizards and 2 different snakes. And, but I'll tell you, before we get into the actual subject, he is, and you've met him multiple times too. He was one of the nicest people I have ever met in my entire life. The way that he portrayed himself on camera was the exact same way he was in real life. And it was so cool. He would make you feel like he would literally stop. He's one of those people. He would stop and he made you feel like you were the only person that mattered when you were talking to him. And that takes a very rare person to do that, especially someone when they're in a social setting. Like I met him at Aquashella for the first time. He's surrounded by people. He's being just mobbed because he was by far the biggest thing there.
Yep.
And when he stopped to talk to me, I don't think he even knew who I was. He talked to me. And I was like, that's a special human being right there. So yeah, when we lost him, that was massive because he was an outstanding human being.
Absolutely. I met him. He called me out of the blue one day. As a matter of fact, I gave him your number in that conversation. I'm driving one day to the bank and I'm getting a call and I look at my phone and it says Brian Barczyk. I'm like, not that one. Like he wasn't in my contacts. I don't know why his name popped up on my caller ID, but I answered it and I was like, hello, hey John, it's Brian Barczyk. How you doing? Why are you calling me? But the point being, he's a mega star. I mean, this guy was on TV. He's been on Mr. Beast's channel. He's a superstar. He's calling me and spending 45 minutes on the phone with me, inviting me somewhere. He made me feel like he was no more important than me. Like I was one of him. Like that was a special human being right there. I was absolutely devastated when we lost him. I didn't really know him. I mean, I had a few interactions with him, but it was very, very sad to see him go.
Yeah. And the point is, again, that YouTube, because they are able to pay creators, it attracts some really good talent. I always use Aquarium Info as an example, what Jamie does with her fiance, husband. I don't know what their status is right now, but what they do with their thing, they could be doing that for Animal Planet. They could be doing that on Nickelodeon. And I mean, straight up that level of production. Or Mr. Beast, you mentioned him, or any of the, you had those guys that used to do all the trick shots and all that stuff. Now I forget their names, the group of dudes. Dude Perfect. Yeah. But you have these people who could easily just be crushing it. You want to know why why in the movies and in television, have you noticed the talent isn't there anymore? It's not. The storytelling is not there, hasn't been there in decades. The people on screen are not nearly as good as they used to be. Because I think what happens is we've taken the chains off of the industry, so to speak. The gatekeepers are no longer able to be there because now anybody that actually has talent, that has knowledge, that has the ability to reach people, they don't need a studio for that anymore. They can just go on social media, build their own brand, build their own personalities, and do an end around against, and it's awesome to see that. And YouTube has been the platform to do that. However, I think we should. The whole point of this was, okay, well, things have also gone wrong, right? Terribly wrong. Again, we'll start with the low-hanging fruit. I think we already kind of mentioned it, but TikTok is mostly brainless, mindless stuff. And I think you got to be really, really careful on TikTok. I would recommend for parents who have kids, put a monitor on their phones because TikTok is probably, I don't use it really, but you scroll through there, and if TikTok doesn't know what you want, it will devolve into things you definitely don't want real quick. And I don't use it. I absolutely will not use that platform because you scroll through a little bit and you're like, what the frig what is this? How is this winding up on the internet? I understand why there was a push politically to ban it in the United States or to at least get it in this control of people that are in the US. And that can be a really bad place to be. And I absolutely will not, I won't go on there after discovering just how badly that devolves into just trash.
I fortunately have not experienced that because I just simply, I'm sure if I spent more time on the platform, I would, but I've spent very little time on that platform. The only time I've ever really gone on there is to get pissed off. And what I mean by that is like, let me search for people cleaning aquariums. And what I find is people posting TikToks about themselves cleaning aquariums that should not be posting videos about themselves cleaning aquariums.
Yeah.
And so I just get pissed because I'm like, this is not a fish keeper. This is not somebody who should be delivering information for people to educate them. This is just somebody sharing something that they're doing. And, but what they're doing is thousands and thousands and thousands of people are seeing it and thinking that that's okay. And now that's how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to be over and over again killing fish. It's a huge problem. I end up just getting pissed off and I get off of it. So I haven't experienced what you're talking about. And I'm glad because it would probably take years off of my life.
Yeah. Well, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it is just, and you said it perfectly. It's people just recording what they're doing. And it's not necessarily the right way to do it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm like, let me get on there. I'm creating the short form anyway, but if I could get people to watch that short form and maybe convert over to long form, it's very rare that happens, but at least I'll be getting solid information. And there are other reliable creators out there as well, but it's mostly garbage. Instagram, we've kind of already mentioned. I mean, Instagram is great if you like pictures, if you like short form. You don't really want any interaction with the creator, and the creator doesn't want any interaction with you. It is what it is. But I think probably where we spend most of our time focusing is, I think the biggest impact on fish keeping is in Facebook and on YouTube, right? By far.
Yeah.
So Facebook, if you were to say, hey, everybody, watch out because this is where things go wrong in fish keeping community on Facebook, what would your advice be? Your warnings?
Have a thick skin and understand that you can't read people's emotions. And there are so many fish snobs out there that don't know how to word things properly, that are probably good intentioned, but they're going to come across as people that are just the worst. And understand that before you start reading into any posts from any groups, any replies to your questions. They're not all as evil as they may sound, but the problem is not having that emotion attached to the text that you're reading. You don't know how that person is actually saying what they're saying. They might not be as mean and cruel as you think they are, but you're going to read it that way, and it's probably going to get you very frustrated and probably make you quit the platform like me. But if you go into it knowing that, maybe that might help a little. I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. And I very rarely interact with Facebook, generally speaking, like the comments. And even when somebody tags me like, oh, at Primetime Aquatics or at Jason Adams, and, then it shows you in a notification, hey, somebody tagged you in a stream of argument. I very rarely respond because I don't find it to be fruitful a lot of times, because people have their opinions, and on Facebook, for whatever reason, they dig down deep, right? The minute they are challenged or they're questioned, they just dig their heels in, and it just always seems to devolve into an argument. So, and the problem is on a lot of these groups, I'll see people asking what are pretty legitimate questions, but the responses are stupid, right? They might ask a question, hey, what's the best fish food to feed? Well, what's your water parameters? What kind of, and you're just like, they've asked you 77 questions in response. It's like they just wanted to know, hey, I've got some platies, what fish food do you feed? And it just devolves into an argument. Sometimes the original poster doesn't even respond. You've got people in there that are just going crazy because it's Apple versus Galaxy, Ford versus Chevy, and then they've got their favorites. And you see a lot of, we talked about the advantages where you have that community dynamic, but with that, you can get a lot of misinformation. A lot of bad advice happens on Facebook.
And for some reason, when you read that, you seem to think that it's fact. And I don't mean you, Jason Adams. I mean anybody. I fall victim to this myself. Like I'll read something and I just assume, well, that's the correct thing. But what's actually happening is that person is just expressing their opinion, and they believe in their opinion, obviously, and or sharing with you their experiences. It doesn't mean that is the gospel truth and you can't do it any other way. But for some reason, there is that weird psychological thing that when you read it, you believe it like that is the truth. Oh boy, there's a lot of fish that have died because of that. And that's the unfortunate thing. The psychology behind it blows my mind. I don't get it.
Yeah. And what's crazy to me is that most of these groups, they have community guidelines, right? They have to have them. And so, hey, here's a list of things to follow. But the problem is on some of the more popular groups, there's just not enough moderators. And by the way, the moderators for the most part are not getting paid for this.
Nope.
So they're just out of the kindness of their heart kind of going through there and making sure that as many people as possible are adhering to the community guidelines. But that can be a tough job, right? Because then you're getting sucked into it all the time. Then you're having to block people, and then they're getting mad. Oh yeah, this group blocked me because I said something, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
They were just, they knew I'm right. It's like, you can't win sometimes.
I have a Facebook group. It's called the Tank Talk Facebook group because everything that I used to do back in the day was called Tank Talk. And I think there's between 20 and 30,000 members of that group now. And I used to be on there all the time. I mean, even when I hated Facebook, still do, but I would be on there all the time because it was a great way for me to communicate with my audience. It just got to the point where it was too much. And I had like 12 moderators. Like you said, these are all volunteers. They're not being paid or anything. And it was too much. And I would keep saying things like, hey, listen, let's be nice. I would even put up the Patrick Swayze meme, be nice. It would never work. I mean, everything would just fall apart and you'd have these big arguments. And now all of a sudden my name is attached to those arguments. I was just like, you know what? I'm out of here. I can't, whatever happens to that group happens. I'm over it. I can't do it. It's just too much.
Yeah. It's a lot of work. And every time I think about adding a group to attach to Primetime Aquatics, I think about, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with having to be responsible for getting people to adhere to the community guidelines, because people are a lot more confident behind a keyboard compared to when they're speaking face to face. They will say things they would never say to somebody in a face to face conversation. As Mike Tyson has always said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got a smart comment until the person is standing in front of them. And they wouldn't say close to half the stuff these keyboard warriors say if they were actually talking to a human being. They don't have the courage to do it. And that's right. The frustrating part.
Yeah. And I've only had somebody, and I can't even really talk about this conversation because of the things I said afterwards, but I've only had one person ever talk to me in person like they're online. And people say the worst things online, but like you say, you meet them in person and they're just the nicest person in the world. I had somebody come up to me and insult my wife to my face at an Aquashella one time. I think you were doing a talk, which is why you weren't there. Otherwise you'd have been right there next to me.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to think. I'm like, when did this happen? Yeah.
I was standing there talking to another follower, and he walks up and he's like, hey, I just thought I'd let you know, I really love your stuff, but I hate your wife. And I'm not going to say what I said to him, but it involved language that I would rather not use on this podcast or with you because out of respect. It didn't get physical but it got ugly really fast because I'm like, did you really just walk up to me and just say that? Like, if you'd said it the other way around, hey, listen, I love the stuff your wife does, but I can't stand you. I'd have been like, hey, join the club. Here's your membership card. No big deal. Yeah. I would have had fun with that. But yeah, when it went the other way, I had a big problem with that. And the person that I was originally talking to was just kind of standing there like, I've never seen that side of you, John. Like it was fun. But anyway, only that one time. And I'm not trying to act like a celebrity, but you and I, every time we're always together here, thousands of people. And that's only one time that's ever happened. Everybody else has been just as pleasant as can be in person, but online they become a different person. We all know that.
Yeah. And you know what? The nice thing is, in some ways, we're blessed because the fish keeping community, by and large, they're really good people. I mean,
Oh yeah.
probably one of the friendliest communities I've ever been a part of. I've been a part of a lot of things, whether it's different sports or motorcycle riding or all the different hobbies I've had. And the fish keeping community, I mean, I don't know how it is like on your live streams, but I'm always amazed by how friendly the people are in the chats of our live streams, how helpful they are. They're answering one another's questions. They formed a community, a bond on those nights when we have those live streams, just like they have on yours. And it really is it's so nice to see that. And I think that's why people come to KG Tropicals or Primetime Aquatics on YouTube. We'll talk about that in a second. Is they do get that community, especially in the live streams. But Facebook, you're not necessarily cultivating that community the way you are in terms of your expectations on YouTube. So that can be a little bit more challenging because you've got people, just strangers, or they just join a group and life is miserable, so they want to make other people's lives miserable.
Yeah, and it is unfortunate. I used to stream on Facebook when live streaming first became a thing. And then I just went over completely to YouTube. I used to do both, not at the same time. Like right now, there's a lot of software where you can stream to both at the exact same time. Yeah, I'm not going to fool with that, but I would do different nights. Once would be on YouTube and one would be on Facebook. Facebook just became a problem. Like I couldn't do it there anymore. So I just went exclusively to YouTube. But we're also talking about like probably 2015. So it's been a while. Live streaming's come a long way since then.
Yeah. And then kind of circling back to YouTube, that is another thing that they make really, really easy for us as creators to cultivate that community. I have got a list of banned words that would, if you wrote them on 10 font, 12 font on a piece of paper, it would probably fill up a half a book. I mean, words you didn't even know people would actually ever say or type.
Me too.
But it's a massive thing. And I just copy and paste that every time I make a YouTube channel. I copy and paste that one and I'll add them. And so if I see a comment get through that has characters in such a way that implies a certain word, I'll just add that to my banned words list. And you can ban people really, really easily on YouTube. And so I'm not afraid to do that at all. And I don't really care how that's perceived. But if somebody leaves a comment, I don't care if somebody leaves a comment on a YouTube video challenging what I've said in a respectful way. That's cool. That is, hey, you know what? You made this comment about we get it all the time, that under gravel filter podcast that we did. I don't know if there's any video that we've done that has gotten more comments than that one, but there was a lot of people like, you guys, man, you don't know what you're talking about. Under gravel. That's cool. That's somebody expressing their opinion, and they're doing it in not always the most polite way, but they're doing it in a way that's not offensive, right? When you cross that line, at least on my YouTube channel, and you cross that line and you're using language that I've always said my YouTube channel is one in which a little kid could go and watch the videos. And if they scroll down in the comments, mom and dad would be perfectly okay with what they're reading. And if that threshold is crossed, that comment gets deleted. And if a person is just objectionable, they're gone. I just ban them because I don't need that in my community. It's such a positive area. It's really easy to keep it that way on YouTube, I guess is what I'm saying.
It is. But again, this is where things are weird for me because I go with the emotional side of things. And I'll give you a little example of what I'm talking about. If you're online and you see somebody on that video, for example, that says, in the under gravel filter video, that's the worst filter I've ever seen. Now you're going to read that and you're going to think, wow, what a jerk. That's a real jerk thing to say. But if we're at an Aquashella and you and I are face to face and you're like, yeah, I use under gravel filters. And I'm like, that's the worst filter I've ever seen. Are you kidding me? That's just, yeah, I'm not being a jerk. I'm just saying, like, we're having a conversation here. So it is weird how to read into that. I still find the YouTube channel, the YouTube comments, like it's still bizarre to me. I've been making videos for 13 years and I still can't understand why people do it, but they do. And it's a lot of them. And like you said, most of them are overwhelmingly pleasant and supportive and positive, but you do get a few. And the unfortunate thing as a creator is you only really pay attention to the bad ones. You can have 999 positive ones. You get that one negative one. That's the only one you care about.
So I think what a lot of people don't, at least for me personally, when somebody leaves a comment on a YouTube video that is like over the top, like just being an absolute jerk, I laugh at it. And then I delete the person and ban the person. But it probably, some of these comments, as you know, will be 2 paragraphs long. I'm that must have taken them about 10 minutes to type out. They think that they've had some kind of an impact on me. And I to a fault. And Joanna my wife will be the first one to tell you that one of my personality faults is emotionally, there's not a whole lot you can say to me that is even going to bother me in any way, shape, or form. I just brush it off and I'm like, whatever. Like somebody could call me a bunch of names. And then if they're cool with me 5 minutes later, I'm like, oh yeah, let's go get some pizza. I just don't care. And so when people leave these comments that are calling me every name in the book, there have been times where I'll be like, I'll show you, like, hey, dude, look at this idiot, right? Look at this comment. Or I'll show it to some other, one of my YouTube friends and I'll laugh it off, delete it because it doesn't pass. Nobody sees it. And that's the other thing people don't understand. The minute you say objectionable things, it's getting used. YouTube is awesome because YouTube will actually show it to the person who posted it, but it doesn't actually post so that anybody else can see it.
Right.
So caught up in our blocked thing. And then I just ban the person, delete the comment, and move on with my day. It took me 2 seconds to do that. I'm like, these people, I don't think they understand that they're having no impact other than momentary, like, wow, this person's a moron. Check it out. Let's have a good laugh. If it's something funny, rude and funny, but then I just delete it and ban the person. So YouTube, the point is that YouTube is actually pretty good about being able to cultivate a community that is positive.
Well, and the content, I'm not a YouTube commenter. I don't comment often. I mean, it's been very, very rare that I've done that, but I find myself sometimes wanting to, and I have to stop myself. I'll give you a great example. I was watching the worst stuff ever. I was watching a true crime video on YouTube the other day, and the very brief version of the story is you have 3 people that were deleted. You're not allowed to say the M word on YouTube. Right, yeah. They were, removed from the situation in a house. There's a security cam video of a red Dodge Dakota that backs up into the driveway, and they load a bunch of stuff into the back of that truck, and then it pulls off. And this is all on security camera. They don't show the act happening, but the loading of the aftermath is put into the back of that truck. Then they show security footage of another day, another time, where those 3 bodies were found in the back of the truck in an airport parking lot. But here's the thing. It was a different truck. It was a red Ford Ranger this time. And the person in the video that's doing the video true crime documentary thing is talking about that's the same truck that pulled up to the house and was abandoned in the parking lot of an airport. And I'm sitting there watching it going, am I the only one that sees that was a Dakota and the one they found the bodies in is a Ranger? They switched trucks somewhere. This is clear as day. And I was typing it. I was putting it in the comment section. Yeah. And then I was like,
they'll figure it out. Somebody will.
Yeah. I'm not going to do that because first of all, I was on KG Tropicals. I don't feel like, and I was just like, no, delete, cancel. I'm not doing it. I'm not getting involved, but it was so clear to me. So I understand, but then again, I don't, cause it's like, it amazes me. I mean, my channel gets like 1,000 comments a day. I'm like, it's wild to me, but that's the best thing about it is that it brings that out in people, whether it's just, hey, great video or asking questions, whatever. I wouldn't even entertain doing that anywhere else, only on YouTube.
But there are downsides to YouTube, right? I mean, just like every other social media platform, if you search for things on YouTube, you're going to get some disinformation. You're going to get some things that we've talked about it before. How do you know when advice is good advice? You're looking for consensus. And even sometimes that isn't going to give you everything, but you kind of just alluded to it. You can get some really bad information in what's supposed to be an educational platform.
Yeah, and the people that are delivering that information are delivering you the information that they know. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. I speak for myself here too. I'm not trying to tell you everything I've ever said is right. I'm just saying, I'm going to share with you what I know, and it's worked for me. Doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And I hope that everybody understands that it's not just me that is that way. That's with everybody in every community, every type of video out there. They're sharing with you what they know or from the information that they've gathered. It doesn't mean that it's factual.
And one of the things that I've heard from time to time is, and I know you've probably heard it too, is, oh my gosh, all YouTube now is just this place where creators just push products, right? Oh, you're just pushing products. And that to me, yeah, I'm sure there are creators that do that, but when you're doing a product review, when I'm doing a product review, it's like, well, what are we supposed to do? There's a product on the market. We're trying to share the advantages and disadvantages of this product. And then the minute we do that, you're telling us we're either just trying to do a commercial. I get that nice 15-minute commercial. I'm like, so what do you want me to do? The commercials that I've watched for a product generally don't go over the advantages and the disadvantages. Did you miss that whole part where I said, here's some things you need to watch out for because you clearly didn't watch the whole video? It's so frustrating. But yeah, there is a part of that where you do have to be careful, right? You do have to watch what are the incentives and is the creator actually giving us the full picture?
Yeah, and I look at it based on what I like to watch, and I hope everybody is this way. There's nothing more exciting for me than to need something and to just go to YouTube and start to quote unquote research that thing. Like an example would be if I'm in the market for a new hang on the back filter, I would love to, which I don't have to because I'm in the industry, but whatever it is, I love going on there and just seeing normal people like me talk about their experiences with that product. And it could be good, could be bad. Some of them might be getting paid. Some of them may have gotten the product for free. That certainly does come into play. But, like you said, even if I'm sent a product for free, or if the creator that I'm watching, I know was sent that product for free because they have to say that if they're still saying, yeah, but there is these things that I dislike about it, that's a win to me. Cause now I know you're being really honest.
Right. And I've had, and I'm sure you have too. And what people who don't create content probably don't understand, especially when your channel gets to a certain size. My Instagram, my Facebook message, my business email account gets loaded up with people. Hey, we want to send you this equipment. In exchange, we'll give you this much equipment. Sometimes there's a fee associated with it, where they basically will pay you. But we want to have you really speak to these advantages, and we need it done in this amount of time. And we want to review it first. And my response, I don't care what the dollar amount would be attached. I don't care what they're trying to send me, is I'll do the product review. You can send it to me, but you have zero control over what I say and how I say it. You will not get the final approval on how I edit it and how I post it. And you will not be able to dictate any of the content relevant to this product. You want to still send it, go ahead. And you know what? It's crickets after that. Mm-hmm. Always. They never respond. And it's like, it's offensive to me that someone thinks that they're going to be able to offer me a little bit of money and a free product and think that they're going to get a positive review. And I'm going to ruin my reputation for that. And it's just, are you insane? But there are people who will do it. And so the things I always find interesting is you'll get people who are like, oh, you know what? I like the smaller creators because when they get stuff, there's not an incentive. Like, no, not all the time, but it's the small creators that when they finally do get that free product, they're going to be more incentivized to give that product a review. And this is just a warning, not just in
so they can get more
anywhere. I see it all the time in the motorcycle stuff. Was, oh yeah, this company sent me a brand new seat, and there's a glowing review. It's like when you get to a channel that's a certain size, that's a dime a dozen. You don't care
Yep.
anymore. You stopped caring years ago about. I don't need hang on back filter number 87. I don't need light number 45. If I'm going to do a review, I'm just going to do it the way I want to do it. If you don't like that, then don't send it to me. I'll probably just go buy it myself, and then I can definitely say whatever I want.
I've been, and so have you. I've been in that situation though, and I understand how you can get sucked in because it's like they want to send me this product and I don't have to pay for it. That's every YouTuber's dream. That's amazing. It's not free because you're promoting it. That's,
Yeah.
you know, you're actually probably paying way more for it than it's worth, but they want to send me this for free. I don't have to pay for it. I love that. That's incredible. And the cool thing is, or the big thing is, I want them to send me more stuff too. So I better make sure that I say good things. I'm not saying I've done that. I'm saying I've been sucked into that and then had to reel myself back and be like, oh, hold on, wait a minute. I can't do that. I can't be bought like that. I mean, that's a huge problem, but I understand the appeal. It's like, oh man, I want to make sure I keep them happy because when they come out with a new thing, they send it to me again. You know, that's tough. It's a first world problem. I know, but it's a tough situation to be in.
You know, the other thing I think about too is social media, as it's almost its purpose, has the potential to make certain trends a lot more popular than they maybe should be. Right. And we see this in fish keeping. You've been around on YouTube longer than I have, but I've seen it play out where you see these trends in fish keeping because you've got certain people who jump on it in social media, and then you got other people trying to ride the coattails of the people who did it first.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing you know, it's this big thing. And when you take a step back, you're like, well, there's a reason why it wasn't a big thing before it became a big thing. And there's a reason why it won't be a big thing in a few years after everybody tries the big thing and realizes the big thing wasn't a big thing. It was actually a mess. So it
said. Wow.
Right. I mean, it could be any number of things, whether it's aquascaping trends in whether you use certain types of equipment, not use certain types of equipment. It's like, you know, right now, the biggest thing is all the filterless tanks, right? You don't need a filter. You just tons of plants and some fish and everything's fine. And it's like, there's some value to that, but now the pendulum has swung so far in that direction. It's like at some point, and now you're starting to hear some people saying it's after they've done it for a while. Yeah, I went the filterless direction, but now I realize after doing it that there are some serious limitations and drawbacks. And I'm like, that's all I've ever said. You can do it and it does work. We've got 4 filterless tanks upstairs, or actually 5 upstairs right now, but you have to understand that there are limitations and there are drawbacks, right? And there's going to be the next thing. Who knows someone's going to be like, oh, I put an FX6 on a 20 gallon and this is the way to go. Fish really love being blown out of the tank and blown back into it. You're going to have a whole bunch of people like, yeah, man, the only way to keep fish is with an FX6 on a 20 gallon. If you're not doing that, then you just don't know how to keep fish. You're a newbie. You don't understand the dynamics there, the intricacies. You know, there's things you just don't know.
I love the voice you use when you do that. That's great, but it's so true. And we're actually, in fact, going to be recording an episode of this podcast today about trends in fish keeping. If anything that Jason just said appeals to you, I can promise you it's going to end up on that episide.
Yeah.
He'll use that voice too.
I will use this voice. Morons. Yeah. So, yeah, I do. I look at that. I look at sometimes the way you see things happening on, not so much, like I said, not TikTok, but Instagram, Facebook, in terms of the groups. And then it's certainly on YouTube, you'll see certain trends and you're like, this is going to be a mess, right? And even certain fish types, right? Somebody will be like, oh, I've got this fish, and they'll think that they're doing something new because they haven't been in fish keeping all that long. And look at this unique fish combination I just had. I'm like, yeah, I tried that like 15 years ago by mistake, and it wound up being a disaster. Now you're telling all these people, oh, keep these fish together. It's going to work out great. I'm like, oh, it'll work out great for about 6 months. And then you and everybody else who followed your silly directions there are going to find out real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Not so smart. Yeah. So it's,
I'm tapped out here. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done as much griping as I can do in one episode.
I think the bottom line is this: when it comes to social media, it has been instrumental in terms of what we do in fish keeping, and the information that we've been able to obtain and the quality information that's out there has made it a lot easier for people to keep fish, provided that they're willing to, go with the sound advice of experienced fish keepers and know how to kind of parse through information. But you also have to be careful. You have to be careful of the incentivization for certain videos that you're watching, and just be careful about what you're consuming on social media, and make sure you're not one of those people. My gosh, don't be one of those people who are flicking through social media and 3 hours later, you're like, what just happened? Right. Funny thing happens. And I'm sure, my guess is you're probably the same, but one of the interesting things that happens as you become a creator, you become a lot less of a consumer of social media. I don't know if you've found that to be true for yourself. I know it has been for me.
I consume a lot of social media, but not fish stuff.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of superhero stuff and home improvement stuff and woodworking stuff and all of that, but not fish stuff, because that's my life. I mean, I'm in 24/7. So when I go on social media, I'm looking for things that are not that. So
yeah, I always feel really bad. People be like, hey, did you see so-and-so's newest fish tank or the fish they're keeping? Like,
no.
I can honestly say probably in the last 4 years at least, I could probably count the number of fish related videos I've watched on one hand. And it's not that I don't like my colleagues. I consider, when we get together on Aquashellas, when it's you and me and the rest of the group, especially back in the heyday, we all have a great time. So it's not a competition or jealousy, or it's like you said, once you're in it, you don't watch it anymore. So that's just the way it is. At least
kids don't have shoes.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, again, we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. What do you think about TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube? Do you like any of the alternative social medias out there that we didn't talk about just because it doesn't really necessarily fully apply to what we're doing here in fish keeping? But as always, hey, thank you so much for being here. We're going to see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for letting us vent for a little while.